I'm Samantha, 32, and I never thought I'd be racing through a government building to find my daughter Lily. The note on my kitchen counter was brief. Sorry, sweetie, we just couldn't take care of her. While scrolling through my phone frantically, waiting for answers, a notification appeared. There was my father, sunglasses perched on his head, arm around my sister's kids in Hawaii. My parents had abandoned my 8-year-old daughter to foster care while vacationing with my sister's family. I didn't scream. I didn't break down. I made one phone call that would end with police pounding on their hotel door. If you're watching this from somewhere warm today, share where you are and hit subscribe for more stories of family justice. Life before this nightmare was already challenging, but in ways I could manage. As an ER nurse at Riverside Memorial, I'd built a career helping others through their worst moments. The irony isn't lost on me that I'd become so skilled at handling emergencies for strangers while missing the catastrophe brewing in my own family. Lily came into this world 8 years ago during my final year of nursing school. Her father, Anthony, and I had been married just a year when those 2 pink lines appeared on the pregnancy test. We were young, scared, but committed to making it work. Anthony was finishing his business degree, and we relied heavily on my parents' support during those early years. From the moment they placed Lily in my arms, she became my world. She has this infectious laugh that starts as a giggle and crescendos into full belly laughter that makes everyone around her smile. Her curly auburn hair is perpetually escaping whatever hairstyle I attempt in the mornings. And she has these thoughtful green eyes that seem to process everything deeply. Despite our busy schedules, we maintained our special rituals: Sunday morning pancakes, bedtime stories no matter how late my shift ran, and our brave talk where we shared one thing that scared us that day. Things changed when Anthony's marketing career took off. The late nights at the office became more frequent, as did the business trips. I noticed the first signs 3 years ago: the unfamiliar perfume, the defensive responses to simple questions, the emotional distance. When I finally confronted him with evidence of his affair with a coworker, he didn't even try to deny it. Our divorce was finalized quickly, with Anthony agreeing to monthly visits with Lily and child support that arrived irregularly at best. My parents, Gerald and Marilyn, had always been a complex presence in my life. Dad built a successful accounting firm that afforded them a comfortable retirement. Mom spent years as an elementary school principal before joining him in retirement. They presented themselves as the pillars of family values to friends and neighbors. But behind closed doors, the dynamic was very different. My younger sister Victoria had always been their obvious favorite. 4 years my junior, Victoria followed our parents' carefully plotted life plan: prestigious college, marriage to Bradley, a successful attorney, and 2 perfect children: 10-year-old Jackson and 6-year-old Madison. Victoria became a part-time interior designer for wealthy clients, allowing her to maintain her image as both career woman and devoted mother. The favoritism wasn't always blatant, but it was consistent enough to create a pattern Lily and I couldn't ignore. When Jackson got the latest gaming system for his birthday, Lily received a clearance book and craft set. When Madison had her first ballet recital, my parents drove 3 hours and booked a hotel to attend. When Lily had her piano recital, the EADI following month, they were unfortunately committed to a neighborhood potluck. During holiday gatherings, Jackson and Madison's favorite foods would appear on the table with fanfare. The year Lily was diagnosed with a gluten sensitivity, my mother served pasta and rolls, forgetting to prepare any alternatives despite my reminders. "Oh, I'm sure she can find something to eat," Mom had said, as Lily picked at plain salad. I'd tried countless times to address these disparities tactfully. "Mom, I notice you seem to make different efforts for Victoria's kids than for Lily," I'd attempted during a private moment after Christmas 2 years ago. "Don't be ridiculous, Samantha," she'd replied, arranging Madison's new wardrobe of doll clothes. "We love all our grandchildren equally. It's not our fault that Victoria makes it easier to be involved." Last month, Riverside Memorial faced a severe staffing shortage amid a multi-car accident on the interstate. As one of the senior nurses, I was called in for 3 consecutive night shifts. My usual childcare provider, Lisa, was visiting family, out of state, leaving me with few options. I called my parents, my voice carefully measured to hide my desperation. "I hate to ask this, but is there any chance you could watch Lily for 3 nights? I've been called in for emergency shifts." The silence on the other end spoke volumes before my father finally responded. "Well, I suppose we could rearrange some things. When would you drop her off?" Relief flooded through me. "Thank you so much. I can bring her over tonight around 6, and I'd pick her up Friday morning." "Fine," my mother said, her voice clipped. "Make sure she brings her own entertainment. You know we don't have much for children her age here anymore." I spent the afternoon preparing everything meticulously. I packed Lily's favorite comfort items, her stuffed otter named Webster, the quilt her grandmother on Anthony's side had made, and the nightlight that projected stars on the ceiling. I prepared labeled meals with simple reheating instructions. I wrote out her routine, emergency contacts, and medication schedule for her occasional seasonal allergies. "Be good for Grandma and Grandpa, okay?" I told Lily as we pulled into their driveway. "Remember, they have different rules than we do at home." "I know, Mom," she said, clutching Webster to her chest. "I'll be super helpful and quiet, just like they like." That statement should have broken my heart, but at the time, I was just grateful for the childcare. I hugged her tightly, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo, not knowing it would be days before I held her again. As I carried her overnight bag into the house, I overheard my parents' hushed conversation from the kitchen. "We'll have to tell her soon about the Hawaii plans," my father was saying. "Let's wait until after she leaves," my mother replied. "No sense causing problems before we need to." I should have asked questions then. I should have taken Lily and left immediately. But with patients depending on me and no alternative childcare, I convinced myself they were discussing some future trip, not one that would begin while my daughter was in their care. The 3rd night shift had been brutal. A 5-car pileup on the highway had brought in 15 trauma patients simultaneously, and I hadn't sat down for more than 10 minutes in 12 hours. I was changing out of my scrubs in the hospital locker room when my phone rang with Lily's school's number flashing on the screen. "Ms. Walker? This is Deborah from the front office at Lakeside Elementary. Lily wasn't in class this morning, and we haven't received notification of her absence." My heart seemed to stop mid-beat. "What? She's staying with her grandparents. They should have dropped her off." "We haven't seen Lily today, and no one has called her an absent," Deborah replied, concern evident in her voice. I rushed out of the hospital still wearing half my scrubs under my street clothes. The 15-minute drive to my parents' home stretched eternally as I tried calling both their cell phones repeatedly. No answer. I pulled into their driveway, noticing immediately that both cars were gone. Using my emergency key, I burst through the front door. "Lily? Mom? Dad?" My calls echoed through the empty house. The kitchen counter held a single sheet of notepaper with my mother's precise handwriting. "Samantha. Sorry, sweetie. We just couldn't take care of her. We've arranged for temporary placement until you're available again. They said you can contact Child Protective Services to make arrangements. Mom and Dad." No phone number, no location information, no explanation. My trembling hands could barely dial the phone as I contacted CPS. After being transferred 3 times, I finally reached someone who could help me. "Yes, we do have a record of a child named Lily Walker being placed in emergency foster care yesterday evening," the woman said. "The guardians reported a temporary inability to provide care and requested placement services." "They're her grandparents, not her guardians," I said, my voice rising. "I'm her mother. I have full custody. I was working hospital shifts. They were babysitting. Ma'am, please try to stay calm. I understand this is upsetting, but raising your voice won't help us resolve the situation faster." It took 4 hours of phone calls, verification of my identity, explanation of the circumstances, and finally connecting with a social worker named Andrea, who had been assigned to Lily's case. Your parents presented themselves as Lily's legal guardians facing an emergency, Andrea explained during our meeting at the CPS office. They claimed they were unable to continue caring for her due to unforeseen circumstances and that the mother, meaning you, was unavailable indefinitely. Unavailable. Indefinitely, I repeated incredulously. I was working hospital shifts, 3 nights. They knew exactly when I was picking her up. Andrea nodded sympathetically. We're certainly looking into why proper protocols weren't followed. The intake worker should have verified guardianship documentation and made efforts to contact you. Where is my daughter now? I demanded. She's with the Martinez family, one of our emergency placement homes. They're excellent caregivers. I can take you there now. The Martinez home was a modest ranch-style house with cheerful yellow trim. Mrs. Martinez, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, greeted us at the door. Lily's in the backyard with my husband, she said gently. She's been very quiet, poor thing. When Lily saw me step onto the back patio, she dropped the ball she'd been half-heartedly tossing and ran to me, colliding with my legs with such force I nearly lost balance. Mommy! Her small body shook with sobs as I lifted her into my arms. I thought you weren't coming back for me. Not coming back? I looked at her tear-streaked face in confusion. Sweetheart, I would never leave you. I was just working at the hospital, remember? Between hiccuping sobs, Lily revealed fragments of what had happened. My parents had told her I had called and said I needed to take care of something important and wouldn't be back for a while. They had packed a small bag for her, driven her to a strange office, and left her with people she didn't know. Grandma said sometimes mommies need breaks, Lily whispered against my neck. She said you might need a long one. As Mrs. Martinez explained the circumstances of Lily's arrival, another horrifying detail emerged. Your parents never mentioned that Lily had a mother who would be returning in a few days. They presented it as if they were her primary caregivers and were facing some emergency that prevented them from continuing care. After settling Lily with a snack and some cartoon that Mrs. Martinez had kindly switched on, I stepped into the kitchen and pulled out my phone. A notification had appeared for a tagged photo on Victoria's social media account. The image showed my parents on a beach with Victoria, Bradley, and their children. All wearing matching Hawaiian shirts and leis, cocktails in the adults' hands, wide smiles all around. The caption read, "Surprise family vacation. So blessed to have grandparents who drop everything to make memories with us. Ohana time. Family first." The timestamp showed it had been posted yesterday evening, approximately the same time they would have been dropping Lily at social services. Further scrolling revealed multiple photos. My father teaching Jackson to snorkel, my mother building sandcastles with Madison, sunset dinner reservations at an exclusive oceanfront restaurant. The trip had clearly been planned well in advance, not the impulsive decision their note had implied. A text from Victoria glowed on the screen. Mom and Dad are spoiling the kids rotten in Hawaii. Madison got her hair braided with beads today. And Jackson's learning to surf. Aren't they the best grandparents ever? I turned my phone face down on the counter, unable to look anymore. Mrs. Martinez placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Your daughter asked me last night if she had done something wrong, she said quietly. She wanted to know why her grandparents love her cousins more than her. The control I had maintained throughout this nightmare began to crack. How do I even answer that? I whispered. With truth, appropriate to her age, Mrs. Martinez replied. And with love that leaves no room for doubt. She hesitated before continuing. I should tell you, when the grandparents dropped her off, they never mentioned having a mother who could return. The intake form they filled out indicated mother unavailable with no further explanation. If they had said you were simply working shifts, this placement would never have happened. The calculated nature of their betrayal crystallized in that moment. This wasn't a misunderstanding or poor judgment call. This was deliberate abandonment to fulfill their own desires, with no regard for the trauma they were inflicting on an innocent child. The next morning began with a formal interview at the CPS office. Andrea recorded my statement about the timeline of events, from arranging childcare with my parents to discovering Lily's abandonment. What we're dealing with is potential child abandonment and filing false statements to a government agency, Andrea explained, her pen moving steadily across her notepad. Your parents misrepresented themselves as Lily's legal guardians and provided false information about your availability. What happens now? I asked. We're expediting the paperwork to release Lily back into your custody. It should be completed by this afternoon. As for pursuing any action against your parents, that would be your decision. After leaving Andrea's office, I called my friend Rachel, who worked as a family court attorney. They did what? Rachel's voice rose in disbelief as I explained the situation. Sam, that's not just morally reprehensible, it's potentially criminal. Abandonment, filing false reports, possibly even custodial interference. What would happen if I reported this officially? I asked. It depends on the jurisdiction and whether prosecutors believe there's enough evidence for charges. But making a formal report creates a record, which could be important if there are future incidents. Rachel promised to research the specific statutes and penalties, while I faced the hardest conversation yet, explaining to Lily why she couldn't come home with me immediately. The people at the office need to finish some important papers first, I told her during our visit at the Martinez home. Mrs. Martinez will take good care of you until then, and I'll be back this afternoon to take you home. Promise? Lily's small voice cracked. I promise, sweetie. Nothing could keep me from coming back for you. I brought her favorite stuffed animal Webster, her own pillow, and photos from home to make her temporary stay more comfortable. Mrs. Martinez assured me they would maintain her routine as closely as possible. Leaving her again, even knowing it was temporary, felt like physical pain. In the car, I finally allowed myself a moment of breakdown, sobbing against the steering wheel in the Martinez's driveway before pulling myself together to continue handling the crisis. The school needed to be updated, my work schedule adjusted, and most importantly, Lily's emotional well-being addressed. I called Jennifer, my supervisor at the hospital. Take whatever time you need, Jennifer said after hearing a condensed version of events. We'll shift your schedule to part-time when you're ready to return. Family comes first, especially in a situation like this. I spent the afternoon researching child abandonment laws, learning that my parents' actions could potentially result in misdemeanor or even felony charges depending on how prosecutors viewed the case. The deliberate nature of their actions, including falsifying information to social services, strengthened potential legal consequences. With Rachel's guidance, I began a detailed documentation process. I created a timeline of events, saved screenshots of Victoria's social media posts showing the pre-planned nature of the Hawaii trip, and recorded Lily's account of what my parents had told her. Lily's school counselor, Mr. Powell, offered valuable advice during our phone consultation. Children often internalize abandonment as their fault, he explained. It's crucial to repeatedly reinforce that this was an adult decision that had nothing to do with her behavior or worthiness. Will she recover from this? I asked, voicing my deepest fear. Children are remarkably resilient when they have consistent, loving support, he assured me. With proper validation and possibly some counseling, Lily can process this experience without long-term trauma. By late afternoon, Andrea called to confirm that the paperwork was complete. You can pick up Lily now. We'll need you both to come in tomorrow to finalize some documentation, but she's officially released back to your custody. The reunion was tear-filled but healing. Mrs. Martinez had prepared Lily's favorite dinner as a goodbye celebration, and Mr. Martinez had fixed her backpack strap that had been broken during the hasty packing. You have my number, Mrs. Martinez told me quietly at the door. If either of you need anything at all, please call. We'll be keeping you both in our prayers. That night, as Lily slept in her own bed, I contacted Detective Wilson at the police department, a colleague I'd met through my ER work. His specialization in family crimes made him the ideal person to consult. Based on what you've described, there could be grounds for criminal charges, he confirmed after hearing the details. The premeditated nature, crossing state lines, and the false statements to CPS all elevate the seriousness. What would that process look like? I asked. You'd file a formal complaint. We'd investigate and gather evidence, then present findings to the district attorney who decides whether to press charges, he explained. Given that your parents are currently in Hawaii, there would be interstate coordination involved. Further investigation revealed that my parents had booked their Hawaiian vacation 3 months earlier, according to the confirmation email Victoria had inadvertently included in a social media post showing their luxury resort accommodations. They had made a deliberate choice not to find alternative childcare for Lily, opting instead to abandon her to strangers. Victoria's complicity became clear through her social media timeline. The surprise family vacation had been discussed in posts dating back weeks, with references to shopping for tropical outfits and coordinating activities. I contacted Hawaiian authorities to locate my parents, providing their resort information and flight details discovered through Victoria's oversharing. Online, rather than acting impulsively, I methodically built a case, focusing on protecting Lily while pursuing accountability. The quiet fury that had replaced my initial shock provided clarity and purpose that guided each careful step. The morning after bringing Lily home, my phone exploded with Victoria's name and a string of text messages. "What the hell are you doing?" Police came to the hotel asking questions about Mom and Dad. "You're ruining our vacation over nothing." When I didn't respond immediately, she called, her voice shrill through the speaker. "Have you completely lost your mind? They watch your kid all the time. So they needed a break and called social services instead of bothering you at work. You're always so dramatic." "It was just for a week." I maintained an eerie calm. "They abandoned my child to strangers, Victoria. They lied to authorities about being her guardians. They told Lily I might not come back for her." "Oh, please," Victoria scoffed. "Lily always exaggerates. Mom and Dad would never say that." The foster mother confirmed it. The intake forms confirmed it. The social worker confirmed it. "Well, now you've got police harassing us on our family vacation. Jackson and Madison are terrified. Is that what you wanted? To traumatize my children?" "No, Victoria. I just wanted my daughter not to be abandoned while her grandparents took your children to Hawaii." The family fracture widened as news spread. Aunt Patricia, my mother's sister who had always been somewhat distant from the family, called unexpectedly. "I heard what happened to Lily," she said without preamble. "I'm not surprised. Your mother did similar things to me growing up. Always. Preferring your Uncle David, making excuses to leave me behind." "I had no idea," I admitted. "No one talks about it because your mother is so good at rewriting history," Patricia sighed. "But I wanted you to know I support whatever action you take. The cycle needs to end somewhere." That afternoon, I met with Detective Wilson to formally file child abandonment and neglect charges. The process was emotionally draining but empowering. Each signature, each official statement felt like reclaiming control over a situation where I had initially been powerless. "Interstate cases can be complex," Detective Wilson warned. "The Hawaiian authorities will coordinate with us, but there may be jurisdictional questions about where certain offenses occurred." "I understand it might be complicated," I replied, "but I need to see this through for Lily's sake." Each night after Lily fell asleep, I wrote in a journal, pouring out the rage, grief, and betrayal I couldn't express during daylight hours when I needed to be strong for her. The pages became tear-stained testimonies to emotions too raw to share with anyone. Dr. Thompson, a child psychologist recommended by Mr. Powell, began seeing Lily twice weekly. After their first session, she requested a private conversation. "Lily shared something concerning today," Dr. Thompson said gently. "She says her grandparents told her that sometimes mommies go away and don't come back, and that you might be too busy with important things to return for her." The calculated cruelty of those words stole my breath. They said that to an 8-year-old? To my daughter? Children rarely fabricate specific statements like that, Dr. Thompson confirmed. I believe she's reporting what was actually said. To her, maintaining professional composure at work became increasingly difficult. During my first shift back, a child Lily's age came in with a broken arm, and I had to step into the supply closet for 5 minutes to regain my composure. My friend Kelly became my lifeline, bringing over dinner when I couldn't muster the energy to cook, sitting with me late at night when sleep wouldn't come. You don't have to be strong all the time, she told me during one particularly difficult evening after Lily was asleep. Let yourself break a little. I'll help put the pieces back, together. Meanwhile, Victoria's social media continued providing evidence against my parents. A new post appeared showing they had extended their Hawaiian stay by 3 days, despite knowing the situation that had erupted. The caption read, "When paradise is too perfect to leave, extended our stay because YOLO. Blessed life. No regrets." Text. Messages from neighbors confirmed they had seen my parents loading luggage into their car the morning they abandoned Lily, further establishing premeditation. One neighbor, Mrs. Lawson, had even asked about Lily when she saw them packing, and my father had claimed they were dropping her with friends for a few days. The quiet determination that had been building crystallized into resolute action as Hawaiian authorities confirmed they had located my parents. The coordinated approach had been approved, with officers prepared to confront them the following morning. That night, I sat with Lily during her bedtime routine, carefully explaining what might happen next. The police are going to talk to Grandma and Grandpa about what they did, I explained gently. There might be some big feelings and changes in our family because of this. Will I have to see them? Lily asked, clutching Webster tightly. Not unless you want to, and not without me right beside you, I promised. Your job is just to keep talking to Dr. Thompson about your feelings, and remember that none of this is your fault. Jackson said on the phone that his mom says you're being mean to Grandma and Grandpa, Lily whispered. Sometimes adults disagree about what's right, I replied carefully. But my job as your mom is to make sure you're safe, and that people treat you with respect. That's what I'm doing, even if others don't understand. As Lily finally drifted to sleep, I received a text from Detective Wilson. Hawaiian PD confirmed. Approach at 7 a.m. their time tomorrow. We'll keep you updated. The call came at 12:04 p.m. Eastern Time, which was early morning in Hawaii. Detective Barnes from the Maui Police Department spoke with a calm professionalism that belied the dramatic scene he was describing. We've made contact with Gerald and Marilyn Walker at the Oceanside Resort and Spa, he reported. They're currently being interviewed about the child abandonment allegations. How did they react? I couldn't help asking. Initially with denial and confusion. When presented with the documentation from your state's CPS and your formal complaint, Mr. Walker became defensive while Mrs. Walker became emotional. I learned that the confrontation had been carefully coordinated with hotel security. 3. Officers had approached room 742 at exactly 7:05 a.m. Security cameras captured the entire interaction in the hallway. The knock on their door had been firm, authoritative. My father had answered in a resort bathrobe, the confusion on his face quickly morphing to alarm as Detective Barnes identified himself and the other officers. Gerald Walker? We need to speak with you and Marilyn Walker regarding an incident involving your granddaughter Lily Walker and allegations of child abandonment in Connecticut. According to Detective Barnes, my father had attempted to close the door, claiming there must be some mistake. The officers prevented this, explaining they had a legal obligation to investigate the formal complaints filed. Your daughter, Samantha, has provided documentation showing that you and your wife left your granddaughter with Child Protective Services under false pretenses before traveling to Hawaii, Detective Barnes had stated. We need to ask you some questions about this incident. My mother had appeared behind my father, her hair in rollers, face ashen as she registered what was happening. This is ridiculous, she'd stammered. We made proper arrangements for Lily. Samantha is blowing everything out of proportion as usual. Victoria and her family had been staying in the connecting room. Hearing the commotion, Victoria had burst through the adjoining door, her husband Bradley close behind. Their children Jackson and Madison had peered around their parents, confused by the early morning disturbance. "What's going on?" Victoria had demanded. When Detective Barnes explained, she'd turned on my parents in disbelief. "You told me Samantha knew about the arrangements. You said she was fine with Lily staying with a friend's family." This revelation added another layer to my parents' deception. They had apparently lied to Victoria as well, though her willingness to believe their story without verification said much about her own priorities. As the situation escalated, my father had attempted justification. "We just couldn't handle her special needs," he'd claimed. "Lily requires constant attention, and we're not equipped for that at our age. We made sure she was with qualified caregivers." "She doesn't have special needs," I'd told Detective Barnes during our initial interview. "She's a perfectly typical 8-year-old who occasionally needs her inhaler during allergy season." My mother had dissolved into tears, claiming they had meant to come back for her and had left contact information with the agency. Both claims were easily disproven by the documentation I had provided. Victoria's intervention had grown increasingly hostile, according to Detective Barnes. "This is entirely Samantha's fault. She dumps Lily on Mom and Dad whenever she has shifts. They deserve a break too." The officers had calmly explained the legal implications of what my parents had done, deliberately misrepresenting themselves as Lily's guardians, providing false information to a government agency, and abandoning a minor without proper consent or arrangements. The hotel manager Ellen had arrived during this confrontation, concerned about the disturbance. Upon learning the circumstances, she had shown remarkable compassion, offering a private conference room for the interviews to continue, away from other guests. Other vacationers had witnessed the scene, some recording portions on their phones. One older couple had approached Detective Barnes afterward to express outrage on Lily's behalf, the wife tearfully stating, "I can't imagine doing that to my grandchild." My parents had been escorted from their luxury Ocean View suite to the police station for formal questioning. They weren't technically under arrest, but the gravity of the situation had finally begun to penetrate their denial. "We have arrangements to transport them back to Connecticut for further legal proceedings," Detective Barnes concluded. "They'll be flying back tomorrow morning, though not in the first-class accommodations they had originally booked." Victoria's reaction had been predictable. Within an hour of my parents being escorted out, my voicemail filled with her furious messages. "You've completely ruined our vacation. We saved for months for this trip, and now it's destroyed because you couldn't handle your kid for 1 week, without creating drama. Mom and Dad are devastated. Is this how you repay them for all the times they've helped you with Lily? By humiliating them and having them detained by police? Jackson and Madison are crying because police took their grandparents away. Is that what you wanted? To traumatize my children over your petty jealousy?" What Victoria failed to comprehend was that this had never been about jealousy or vacation envy. This was about protecting a child from people who had demonstrated they viewed her as disposable. News of the incident began spreading on social media as other hotel guests posted about the dramatic morning police scene. One particularly viral post read, "Just witnessed grandparents being confronted by police for allegedly abandoning their granddaughter to go on vacation with their favorite grandkids. Family drama going nuclear at breakfast." That evening, I sat with Lily to explain the developments in age-appropriate terms. "The police talked to Grandma and Grandpa today about what happened. They're coming back from Hawaii earlier than they planned." "Are they going to jail?" Lily asked, her eyes wide. "Not right now, sweetie. They're just coming home so they can talk to more people about the choices they made. Jackson texted me that his mom says you're making everyone sad because you're jealous they got to go to Hawaii," Lily said, her small face troubled. "This isn't about Hawaii, Lily. It's about making sure you are always safe and treated with respect," I explained. Sometimes adults make wrong choices, and there need to be consequences to help them understand why those choices were hurtful. As Lily processed this information, I could see the complex emotions playing across her face: confusion, hurt, the desire to believe the best of her grandparents, and the painful recognition that their actions had been deliberately hurtful. "If they come back, do I have to see them?" she asked finally. "Not if you don't want to," I assured her. "Your feelings are the most important part of this, and I'll respect whatever you decide." That night, as a mother and daughter united against betrayal, we began building a new understanding of family, one based on respect and loyalty rather than obligation and blood ties. The formal charges were filed 3 days after my parents returned from Hawaii: child abandonment, neglect, and filing false reports to a government agency. Standing in the county courthouse watching my father in a pressed suit and my mother in her church clothes, I felt strangely detached from the angry, confused people who had raised me. The arraignment hearing was brief but intense. Judge Franklin, a stern woman with silver-streaked hair, listened impassively as the charges were read. My parents' attorney, an old colleague of my father's, presented their defense. "Your Honor, the Walkers made a regrettable error in judgment during a stressful situation. They believed they were acting in everyone's best interest by arranging professional care for their granddaughter while taking a pre-planned family vacation. A regrettable error would be forgetting to water your neighbor's plants," Judge Franklin responded dryly. "Abandoning a child to state custody under false pretenses while flying to Hawaii suggests a pattern of deliberate choices." My father attempted to minimize their actions during his statement. "We just didn't think it through completely. We were overwhelmed with childcare responsibilities and didn't want to burden our daughter during her hospital shifts." The judge's response was cutting. "Mr. Walker, the court has evidence that this trip was booked 3 months in advance. You had ample time to arrange appropriate childcare or decline to watch your granddaughter." Victoria was notably absent from the courtroom, though she continued her barrage of texts and social media posts, portraying me as the villain who had destroyed family harmony over a simple misunderstanding. The most unexpected development came when Anthony, Lily's father, suddenly reappeared in our lives, demanding an emergency custody hearing after seeing a local news story about the case. "I can provide a stable environment without all this family drama," he claimed during a tense phone call. "Lily deserves better than being caught in the middle of your vendetta against your parents." "This isn't a vendetta, Anthony. They abandoned our daughter to foster care so they could go to Hawaii. Where were you, by the way, during the 3 days she was traumatized by strangers?" "Oh, right. You were 4 months behind on child support." "And hadn't called her in weeks." His silence acknowledged the truth of my words. "Just don't turn her against her grandparents," he finally said, backing down from the custody threat. "Family is important." "So is respect," I countered. "So is feeling safe. Those matter more than family titles." The case attracted local media attention, with one news station dubbing it the Hawaii grandparent case. I declined all interview requests, focusing instead on Lily's healing and our path forward. Her progress in therapy with Dr. Thompson was gradual but meaningful. Initially, Lily had expressed only sadness and confusion, but as weeks passed, her appropriate anger emerged. "They lied to me," she said during our 3rd week of family therapy sessions. "They told me you might not want me anymore because I was too much work. That was mean, and it wasn't true." Dr. Thompson helped her express these feelings safely, using art therapy and role-play to process complex emotions that were difficult to verbalize. Judge Caroline Reeves presided over the main hearing, delivering a stern rebuke that validated everything we had experienced. The court finds the defendants' actions particularly troubling given the position of trust they held as grandparents. This was not a momentary lapse in judgment, but a series of deliberate deceptions that caused significant emotional harm to a child. Community support emerged in unexpected ways. Lily's teacher, Ms. Burton, organized a class project where each student created a strength card, highlighting something wonderful about Lily. her folder filled with colorful reminders. Lily tells the best jokes. Lily shares her snacks. Lily helped me with math when I was confused. My parents ultimately accepted a plea deal to avoid trial. 6 months of probation, mandatory family counseling, community service at a children's advocacy center, and a formal acknowledgement of wrongdoing. The relatively light legal consequences reflected the justice system's emphasis on rehabilitation over punishment in family cases, though the social consequences would prove more lasting. The required family counseling sessions revealed dysfunction, deeper than I had imagined. Under the skilled guidance of Dr. Harmon, layers of favoritism, manipulation, and emotional neglect were exposed. "I've always done everything right," my mother insisted during one particularly tense session. "I raised 2 daughters, supported their activities, helped with grandchildren. One mistake shouldn't erase all that." "Abandoning a child isn't one mistake," Dr. Harmon observed calmly. "It's the culmination of patterns of behavior. The question is whether you're willing to examine those patterns honestly." Victoria's children began asking uncomfortable questions that their parents struggled to answer. 10-year-old Jackson, showing an emotional maturity beyond his years, asked during a rare shared family dinner, "Why did you leave Lily with strangers instead of taking her to Hawaii, too? Wasn't there room for her?" The painful truth that no one wanted to acknowledge hung in the air. There had always been room for Lily. She had been excluded by choice, not necessity. During discussions about a potential permanent protective order, Dr. Thompson provided crucial guidance. "Lily needs agency in this process. At 8, she's old enough to have input into what relationship, if any, she wants with her grandparents moving forward." The first supervised visitation was scheduled for 8 weeks after the incident. Lily had initially refused any contact, but with Dr. Thompson's support, eventually agreed to a brief meeting on neutral ground. "I have some things I want to tell them," she explained, clutching the notebook where she had worked with Dr. Thompson to express her feelings appropriately. The community center room was arranged with comfortable seating and fidget toys available for nervous energy. My parents arrived looking smaller somehow, their usual confident posture diminished by circumstance. Lily, holding my hand tightly, read from her prepared notes. "When you left me with strangers, you made me feel like I wasn't important. You made me feel scared that my mom wouldn't find me. You told me things that weren't true. That hurt me a lot." My father stared at the floor while my mother dabbed at tears. When they finally offered their apology, it focused primarily on their own embarrassment and social discomfort rather than Lily's experience. "We're so sorry for all the trouble this has caused," my father began. "We never meant for things to get so out of hand or for everyone to be so upset." Dr. Thompson gently redirected. "Perhaps you could address specifically how your actions affected Lily's sense of security and trust." Their struggle to center Lily's experience rather than their own discomfort spoke volumes about the challenging road ahead. In an unexpected development, Anthony's mother Judith reached out to offer genuine support. Unlike my parents, she had always treated Lily with warmth despite the divorce. "What they did was unforgivable," she stated firmly during a visit. "Family doesn't mean tolerating harm. I want you both to know I'm here, whatever you need." Her unconditional support demonstrated the difference between true family bonds and mere biological connection. At work, the crisis had paradoxically strengthened my professional standing. Jennifer recommended me for a leadership position coordinating the emergency department's training program, citing the grace and strength I'd shown through personal adversity. "You've demonstrated exceptional crisis management skills and ethical decision-making under extreme pressure," she noted during my performance review. "Those are exactly the qualities we need in leadership." The promotion provided not just professional advancement but practical benefits. A more consistent schedule that allowed greater stability for Lily and financial security as we rebuilt our lives. Lily's 9th birthday marked the first celebration of our new normal. Instead of the tension-filled family gatherings of the past, we hosted a small party with the people who had proven themselves true family: Kelly and her daughter Emma, Mrs. Martinez and her husband Judith, and a handful of Lily's closest friends from school. The backyard decorations reflected Lily's current passion for space exploration. Star-shaped cookies, a rocket-themed cake, and constellation activities created a joyful atmosphere far removed from the trauma of the previous year. "Make a wish, space explorer," I encouraged as Lily prepared to blow out her candles. She closed her eyes tightly, took a deep breath, and with a determined puff extinguished all 9 flames while our chosen family applauded. The healing journey had not been linear. There had been nightmares, anxiety about separations, and moments of regression. But there had also been remarkable resilience. Lily had returned to dance class after initially refusing to participate in any activity that required me to leave her sight. She had formed new friendships with classmates whose parents had shown kindness during our crisis. We had created new traditions to replace the family gatherings that no longer felt safe. Sunday brunches with Kelly and Emma became a weekly highlight. Monthly movie nights with Judith brought laughter and connection. Even Mrs. Martinez kept in touch, inviting us to her family's Thanksgiving celebration where Lily bonded with their teenage granddaughter, who shared her interest in astronomy. Contact with my parents remained limited and structured. After extensive consultation with Dr. Thompson, we had established boundaries that prioritized Lily's emotional safety while allowing for potential relationship repair over time. All visits remained supervised by a family therapist, and Lily knew she could end any interaction that felt uncomfortable. Victoria had made a surprising attempt at reconciliation 6 months after the incident. Her initial text had been tentative. "I've been doing some thinking about everything that happened. Could we talk sometime?" Our first conversation had been awkward, painful, and ultimately necessary. Sitting across from each other at a neutral coffee shop, Victoria had finally acknowledged some uncomfortable truths. "I didn't want to believe Mom and Dad could do something so awful," she admitted. "It was easier to blame you than accept that they've been playing favorites all these years. The favoritism wasn't your fault," I pointed out, "but your silence enabled it to continue." "Jackson asked me why we never noticed how Lily was treated differently," Victoria said, staring into her untouched coffee. "He said it wasn't fair and we should have done something." I had no good answer for him. My boundaries remained firm despite this opening. "I appreciate you reaching out, Victoria, but rebuilding trust will take time and consistent actions, not just words." "What would that look like?" she asked. "Treating Lily with the same consideration you give your own children." Acknowledging the harm done without minimizing it. Supporting her healing without centering your own feelings about the situation. The ongoing family therapy sessions had produced mixed results. 6 months into the process, my father experienced what appeared to be a genuine breakthrough during a particularly intense session. "I have no excuses," he said, his voice breaking. "We treated Lily as less important from the beginning because she reminded us of our disappointment in Samantha's choices. The unplanned pregnancy, the divorce, the struggling single motherhood. We saw all that as failure." "Lily is not a representation of my choices," I responded. "She's a complete person deserving of love and respect regardless of the circumstances of her birth or my marital status." "I know that now," he acknowledged, tears streaming down his face for perhaps the first time in my memory. "I just don't know if I can ever make it right." My mother's journey proved more challenging. Her identity had been so thoroughly built around appearances and social standing that acknowledging the fundamental wrongness of their actions threatened her entire self-concept. "We had good intentions," remained her refrain, despite months of therapy. "We thought we were doing what was best for everyone." Dr. Harmon's patience was admirable as he repeatedly redirected. "Marilyn, good intentions don't abandon children to foster care. Let's explore what was really happening in that decision." The final court hearing featured a moment that changed everything. Judge Reeves had invited Lily to share her perspective if she felt comfortable doing so. After careful preparation with Dr. Thompson, Lily had bravely approached the bench. "I want my grandparents to know that what they did made me feel like I wasn't good enough," she said clearly. "Not because I did anything wrong, but because they couldn't see how special I am. I'm working on forgiving them because Dr. Thompson says forgiveness is for me, not them. But I need them to really understand how bad it felt to think nobody wanted me." The simple, profound truth from an 8-year-old's perspective seemed to accomplish what months of therapy had not. For the first time, my parents appeared to truly grasp the impact of their actions beyond the legal consequences and social embarrassment. The breakthrough in family therapy came 6 months after the incident. During a particularly emotional session, my father turned to Lily without prompting. "I was wrong, Lily. Not just about what happened with Hawaii, but about how I've treated you from the beginning. You deserved better from your grandfather, and I'm truly sorry for failing you." The genuine remorse in his voice marked the first step in actual healing, though the path remained long and uncertain. My mother's journey continued to be more complicated. "I'm trying to understand," she would say, still struggling to fully acknowledge her role. "I never meant for Lily to feel unloved." The greatest growth happened between Lily and me. Our bond, tested by circumstances neither of us could have anticipated, emerged stronger and more secure. The trust between us deepened as she experienced firsthand that my love was unconditional and my promises kept. "Mom," she said one night as I tucked her in, "I'm not scared anymore when you go to work. I know you'll always come back for me." Those words, simple yet profound, represented the most important healing of all. We had created a family of choice. Around us, friends who had proven their loyalty, colleagues who had offered support without judgment, even strangers like the Martinez family who had shown extraordinary kindness during our darkest moments. Looking toward the future, I saw a path that honored the difficult journey while refusing to be defined by it. Lily was flourishing academically, her natural curiosity reignited as emotional security returned. The promotion at work provided stability and growth opportunities. Most importantly, the painful experience had clarified what truly mattered: integrity, respect, and unfailing love. The wisdom gained through this ordeal could be distilled to something both simple and profound. Family is defined by actions, not titles or blood. The people who stand beside you when everything falls apart are your true family, regardless of what name they carry. Sometimes the hardest battles teach us our greatest strengths, I told Lily one evening as we watched the sunset from our backyard. "You've shown more courage than many adults ever find." "Because I had you showing me how," she replied, leaning against my shoulder. And in that moment, I knew that despite everything, we had found our way to something beautiful and true. Have you ever had to make difficult choices to protect someone you love? How did you find the strength to do what was right, even when it was painful? Share your story in the comments below. And if this journey resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength through adversity. Remember, true family is defined by love and respect, not just blood. Thank you for listening, and may you always have the courage to stand up for what matters most.